It can be frustrating to spend hours, days, or even weeks reading a book or any other written material, only to find that after you've finished it, you can't recall most of what was in it. Perhaps you've sometimes heard people speak at length about books they've read or even quote directly from books, as if it's all stored away in their mind, ready to be accessed at a moment's notice. Maybe you've envied their ability to have such a well-developed memory, and you know it would make such a difference to you if you could instantly bring to mind the things you've read whenever you wanted to. One of the least helpful ideas about learning to remember what you've read is that you should read the same material over and over until it somehow sinks in. While repetition is, of course, one aspect of how we remember, just rereading the same words over and over is simply not an efficient way of inputting and encoding the material into your brain. There are 3 core principles for recalling what you've read. The first of these is to always read with a purpose. If you're half-heartedly skimming over the pages you're reading while watching TV at the same time, you're not signaling to your brain that what you're reading is important. But if you shut out all distractions and read with a sense of focus and purpose, by getting a sense of why the author wrote the book in the first place, how the material relates to your own life, how it agrees or disagrees with things you've read before, and what you'd most like to take away from this book after you've finished it, then you'll be inputting the material much more effectively into your brain. The second principle is to actively encode the material. You can do this by taking notes, drawing diagrams, making wall posters, or intensely visualizing what the author is saying and emotionally connecting with the material in some way, perhaps by imagining that what's being described is happening to you. You might imagine explaining what you're reading to someone else, or you might underline a fantastic quote, repeat it to yourself several times and imagine recalling it in the future. After all, you want to be connecting with the material you've read in a multisensory, visceral way, so that the material comes alive for your brain, where it's no longer dry words on a page, but instead a living, relevant, vivid set of experiences and ideas that form a lasting impression in your mind. The third principle is to repeatedly test your recall over time. The simplest way of doing this is to actually go and talk to someone about what you've read and tell them what you got out of the material. But you can also skim through the material and your notes every so often, then close them and imagine summarizing everything you've just learned to someone else. Or you might jot down some summary notes from memory. By training your brain to recall the information over and over, you'll develop a stronger ability to immediately bring to mind what you've read more and more easily. But it's one thing to know about these core principles of effective recall, and it's another thing to fully put them into practice in your life. And so, the deeply relaxing hypnotic part of this session is going to help you to deeply integrate this highly efficient and effective way of reading so that you can naturally increase your ability to input, encode, and recall what you read.